Hey everyone, Patrick Engesser here, your blind spot navigator. I help entrepreneurs get around the blind spots in their business and help new entrepreneurs start their business. So we're joined by a special guest today, a good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, Mr. Ron Klein. You believe it or not, even if you don't know Ron, there's a really good chance that he's touched your life in some way through some of his awesome inventions. So I'll give you a quick couple of examples. He automated the New York Stock Exchange. He also was responsible for inventing MLS listing system for realtors. And Ron, you can correct me on any of this in a minute if I'm wrong. And also invented the magnetic strip on the back of the credit card. So even if some of those others did not, and he also has many other inventions, but I know that the big one for a lot of people that pretty much everybody has used is the magnetic strip on the back of the credit card. So appreciate you being on here and sitting down to talk with us. Just a fantastic human being and a great mentor to me. So I appreciate all you've done, and I just want you to tell our viewers, everybody who's hopped on here, what made you become an inventor. So like, what, looking back at your life when you were younger, what enabled you to say, hey, you know what, I want to be an inventor. That's something I want to do.
Well, first, Patrick, thank you so much for having me. And second, I want to just correct you. I don't classify myself as an inventor,
I knew you would. Go
although
ahead.
although I have a lot of inventions, but I classify myself as an innovator because I don't take on a challenge unless I see a need for it. I don't sit at home all day holding my head saying in the think tank, what can I invent today? So my process is, if I see a need and I can improve that and enhance it, minimize the amount of work, and it provides a benefit, I innovate and turn out into making an improvement. And the one thing that you didn't mention, I did a lot of automating at the New York Stock Exchange, but I was real proud of developing the corporate listed bond trading system.
That's
So
fantastic.
what I did have a mentor when I was a young boy. I'm no longer a young boy. I'm going on 87 years old. I was born in 1935, and a real strong mentor of mine when I was a young boy was my grandfather, my mother's dad. He was an inventor. He invented the torpedo detector during the First World War for
Wow.
submarines. He invented the boiler system for steamships to propel steamships. He invented the pressing machine for tailors that puts the nice crease in your pants at the tailor shop. And late in 1946, when television first came out for the households, he invented the rabbit ears, which was the antenna that sat on top of the television set with two long tentacles that people would twist around to get the best picture.
Oh,
So
so he was an innovator too, for sure,
he was an
obviously.
innovator for sure, and I followed him religiously. He was a wonderful tailor. He even taught me how to sew on a sewing machine where it was foot operated. So he inspired me in many ways, and I was always very inquisitive as a young boy growing up during the tough years, the Second World War, and just coming out of the Depression. Um, I love to create my own toys. I used a lot of cardboard and masking tape, and I could build anything. And then, as a special treat for my birthday, I'd get a ball of string. So that's my story.
Love it. But that's you actually jumped right into something we're going to talk about in a minute, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about in this video is mentorship. But before we get into that, what led you to come up with the innovation for the magnetic strip on the back of the credit card? What made you sit down and say, hey, this is a problem that needs to be, or a challenge that needs to be addressed?
Well, when I was 18 years old, I was drafted into the service, and I was in combat in Korean War. Came back, and I had the GI Bill because my family didn't have the money to send me to college. And with the GI Bill, I really did what I wanted to do for such a long time. I wanted to study engineering, and I became a graduate electronic engineer. And I was always interested in knowing more about not the technical aspect of things, but being able to communicate that to people. So I ended up being the person that was the liaison between the client, who had a need, and the technical people who didn't know how to ask the right questions. And early in 1960, I was pretty good proficient engineer. In the mid 60s, I was approached by a large department store from New York saying, we have a problem. And I said, nope, I never considered anything a problem. It's only a situation, and predicated on being a situation, maybe I can even turn it into a challenge. And I said, what is your problem? And they said, well, it takes too long to make a charge purchase. And that's when the credit card companies would give the merchant a big long book of all the negative account numbers. And and they would, if you went in to make a charge, they called it a charge purchase. The merchant would have to look up in that book to see if your account number was in there, because your credit card was just a piece of plastic with your name on it and your account number. And if your number wasn't in that book, you were good to go. Then he laid a card down and he had a little squishy thing, and he put 3M paper in there and would squish over it. It would make an imprint. It was a very slow process. And I said, all right, I think I can fix that. That's not a problem. And they said, and also the burden is on the wrong person, the merchant. I said, all right, let me look into that too. And I said, why don't I just take all those negative account numbers that the credit card companies give the merchant every month to see if the number's in there or not, and put that into some kind of memory system. And this was back in 1966, when there was no internet, there were no PCs. They just had these big magnetic drums. So that was easy. We put all that information, loaded in every month on the big magnetic drum. And then I said, I'll give the merchant a little keypad and we'll connect that to the magnetic drum, and he can key in the account number. And they said, that's wonderful. And I said, well, we just really speeded up the process. However, I didn't solve the problem of who is really responsible for putting in the accuracy of that number. And it's still, the burden is still on the merchant. And right around that time, because I am smart, daring, and different. When I say smart, I pay attention. It's not a degree from Harvard. I pay attention. I learn something new every day. And I discovered that reel-to-reel tape recorders were just coming out in the mid 60s. That's where you could record music and voice. They had two big tapes, and it would move the tape past the little capstan at constant speed. And I said, geez, I got a great idea. If I could take a little piece of that tape, record the account number on it, paste it on the back of the piece of plastic, okay, build a little device that mimics a tape recorder and make you the motor. Swipe it through that little piece of tape. Instead of having a motor, you're the motor. You swipe it through that little piece of tape. And I said, let me try that. And it worked. And if I didn't know how to do it myself, I would have hired somebody. So how simple that was. And that solved the problem of taking the burden off the merchant, speeding up the process. And that's how I looked at making an invention by just using some innovation, identifying the issue, turning it into a challenge. And there's always a gift behind every challenge. Took a long time to answer your question, but that's how simple it was. And if you were there, you would have done the same thing.
I'm not sure about that, but I think that's super impressive, and something that for, over 40, 50 years, um, millions of people, I don't know, maybe billions at this point, have used that. It's been so much more simple of a process for people. So back to the mentorship question, you obviously mentioned your grandfather was a mentor to you, and somebody who inspired you to, to be an innovator. To somebody who's an entrepreneur or a business owner, or perhaps a new network marketer or sales professional, someone who's self-employed, started the journey of working for themselves, what would you say to them about mentorship? How important is that? And, how should they go about picking a mentor for themselves?
Well, first of all, to define what the mentorship taught me, and he taught me this in many different ways. When I showed you before that I was smart, daring, and different. Smart was being aware, and that's how I knew about the tape recorders. So mentorship is pay attention, be aware, select somebody that gives you good advice, not just an opinion. Opinions come from people that don't know how to do it, never did it before. Mentors give you good advice. Whether you follow that advice or not, it depends upon how you understand it. So when I say smart, okay, I gave you an example of that. Daring, they taught me don't be afraid to make mistakes. A mentor will tell you making mistakes is part of your education. However, if you painted something the wrong color the first time, paint it a different color until the color is correct. And the last thing that a mentor taught me that is so important is whatever you provide and whatever you do, be different. It must provide a benefit. If you're not providing a benefit in anything that you do, it's nothing more than a hobby for yourself. That's being selfish. So provide a benefit. So be smart, daring, and different. In selecting a mentor, make sure that mentor is patient, understands, and the mentor will always say he refuses or she refuses to have a battle of wits with an unarmed person, which means they're going to educate you first before they discuss. So they'll simplify it, make sure you understand it. It's almost like a mentor explained to me what the difference was when I went to grade school and I was presented with word problems. A word problem has more ancillary information in there that's not needed, but you must sift out what's the given in a word problem, what's the goal you're looking for. Everything else in between is the minutia. It's just the journey. Don't start in the middle. Don't start in the journey. That's what a mentor will teach me.
Yeah,
So
that's
stick
great,
with
and
it.
it's great advice. And I think sometimes people start in the middle. That's just our natural as human beings. We could kind of get caught up in the problem, or as you would say, the challenge. And rather than starting at the beginning and say, "Hey, this is where I am. This is where I want to go." I also think that the other thing that I would add that you've certainly taught me as a mentor, as one of my mentors in business as an entrepreneur, is finding somebody who really uplifts you and also is somebody who's one where you want to go. And obviously you being an innovator, a lot of my businesses are more systemized, but I think that just in general looking for someone who's had success already, and can kind of get you to look at things in a different way. But also, you don't want somebody who, if you're having a good day, or if you, let's say you're having a bad day, someone who's going to sit down and commiserate with you and say, yeah, you know what, that does stink. You want somebody who's going to say, hey, you know what, there are, as you always said to me, there aren't any problems, right? There's only challenges, there's only situations. If we can turn this around and make this something better, not only is it going to help you, but you can also teach other people. Do you think would you agree with me that that's a big part of it?
That absolutely is a big part of it, because if you can turn a situation, most situations just need a little bit of adjusting, conversion, obliteration, modification, adjusting, so that you can tolerate and live with the situation and have comfort. So a mentor will turn any situation that appears to be an emergency into something that you can learn to live with and adjust out. However, by examining that situation and understanding it, the mentor will also say, look for the opportunity, because if there is an opportunity there, that opportunity can turn into a tremendous advantage. If the situation just has to be moderated, fine. If it turns into an advantage or an opportunity, there's that gift behind that opportunity and that gift behind the challenge. So a mentor will really show you that nothing is catastrophic. It just has to be addressed accordingly. And most important, they sort out your priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we have trouble sorting those out. And like you said, starting in the middle and rather than starting, saying this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going. So the priority sorting was something that I really learned from you, and something that you helped me out with a lot. And I got to say, it's been an honor to be able to, one, work with you, but now actually be able to give back in a way where, for those of you who don't know, Ron's actually been losing some of his eyesight. And it's obviously, I have a lot of experience in this area. This is probably the one area where I have more experience than Ron. So I've been able to help him with some technology, and it's been great to be able
Absolutely.
to give back to you. It's been a lot of fun. So I appreciate you, my friend, and thanks for doing this. But thanks a lot for all your mentorship, your support, and everything you've done for me.
I do want to leave your listeners with one thought.
Please.
It's so important to define your mission, your vision, and your purpose. And the mission is fairly easy because it's what you do or how you enhance it or what you're targeting and how you function. The vision is how far do you want to take it, and the ultimate. The one thing that most people, well, and most people can immediately tell me what their mission is, what their vision is. When I say, what is your purpose? Takes a lot of thought, because you really have to think about what your purpose is, and that's what your mentor will help you with. What is your purpose? And sometimes you really don't understand that yourself until that comes later in life, when you realize how important the purpose is. That is a big function that your mentor will help you with. Your
It's
mission is
huge.
easy, vision is easy, purpose has to be given a lot of thought.
Mhm.
And thank
Mission, vision, and purpose, really
Yes,
important.
very.
And that's why I don't like to be called visually impaired, right? That's why we like to be called blind, not visually impaired, at least for me. I know other people would prefer that, but you don't tell me that my vision is impaired, because that's one of the things that I believe is still strong. It's the eyesight that's not working so well. So thanks so
Right.
much for your time, Ron. Really appreciate it. Patrick, I'm Patrick Engasser, your blind spot navigator. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're looking for mentorship, individual coaching, or you'd like to work with a group of fast-paced entrepreneurs, please reach out to me directly, patrick@patrickengasser.com. We will be back again soon on this channel, same time, same place, right here on YouTube. So thanks so much. Appreciate it, and look forward to all your feedback.
Thank you, Patrick.